Hey everyone on YouTube, it's Giles here. I'm not going to say the other half of that. I'm not. Did I say it in the last video? I can't remember because I recorded the previous video several times and I kept stumbling in the first minute. And I remember several times recording me saying, hey everyone on YouTube, it's Giles here. How are you guys doing? I hope you're doing well. I told myself not to say that. That's why I said what I just said. Did that make any sense? Did you need to know that? I don't know. Hi. So anyway, my brain has been on overdrive. I do apologise. I feel like I have stuck my head inside an oven and just let it ferment for a while. And also, I just ate a really big sandwich. I realise that's irrelevant, sort of. But there's a lot of calories, and I haven't given it a moment to let it all go down, and I feel like I've been cooked by bacon. I'm using a lot of heated analogies today. I've been cooked, I've been sautéed, I've been flanged. So, this is the video that I intended to make the other day, but didn't because I got distracted talking about coins. I'm not going to talk about coins. If you really wanted to hear me talk about coins, and if you miss coins, they're right there. So feel free to look at them as I'm talking about other stuff in this video. So, this goes back to what I was talking about the other day about the Skeleton Party and the Smoking Robots project. My God, there's been so much thought power going into this. It's one of those things where I'm glad I'm not, because I keep thinking to myself, I wish I had more time to work on it. But at the same time, I feel like I'm glad I don't. I feel like I sit down like once every 2 days or something and do like an hour or two's work on it, and it's like that giving it that breathing room. So I just come back and look at it and reassess it and work out how I'm going to do things. And because it is interesting how the way you make successful content now is so different. Because the thing I've always said is that during my time on YouTube, I've known what to do to be successful on social media. I've just never done it. And I've never done it because there's a lot of work involved, and especially if there's other things going on, you need to give that time and that breathing room. And owing to some of my mental shortcomings, it's always been a bit difficult sort of dedicate myself in that way. But at the moment, I feel like I don't know. It's like I said in a few videos ago. I feel like I'm entering the days of confronting myself, and the planning is happening, and I'm starting to sort of realise that the more solidly things get planned, the better it's going to work out. Which is something I've always known, but it's one thing to know something; it's another thing to do something. It's why some of the people that have the worst addictions on the planet usually have the best advice as to how to deal with that addiction. Oh, water. I don't know why I had to specify as water. No, it's vodka. Happy Sunday. So. Well, I'm working on. Actually, that's like really random thought. I've got like ADD itis this morning. I'm thinking about the comments section on the last video. I had like 2 people pointing out that my videos are quite good to fall asleep to. I think it was the same couple. I think the 2 people were because one said that this is my age. Do you know what you broke your username down for me once, and I've forgotten now. Because looking at it, it looks like my age-o, like a little bit like Bingo was his name-o, but it's my age-o. But I don't think it is. I think it's like Maya Geo or something like that. Anyway, you said you cured my husband's insomnia, and then another person said, I got very sleepy while watching this and had to go take a mini nap. But I hope you two know each other, because otherwise, otherwise I'm just out here putting people in comas. You know? But yes, back to Smoking Robots and Skeleton Pie. I can't remember which one I did first last time. I'm going to go with Smoking Robots this time. I think that was the one I did second last time in the Smoke and Skeletons video. Or was it Skeletons and Smoke video? I can't remember. The first video where I started talking about these. So, the landscape of like how you make things more popular on social media it's changed quite terribly, and you can see that evidenced in like Hollywood movies, for example. Like, I mean, Hollywood movies, they've been terrible for 20 years, but they still turn profit, and that's all they're interested in, because there is no profit in making a good movie. That's unfortunately the when you've got things like endorsements and stuff like that involved, your money is not going to be coming from the product itself. So who gives a fuck what the product's good like, Unfortunately, fortunately, I actually care about making something that is going to satisfy me in terms of, creating something going, I like what I've made. So it's forced me to think in different terms and to make different considerations. Like, say for example, the Smoking Robots shorts, the funny pages, as it were. So, for those of you that are late to the party, Smoking Robots is a comic strip that I'm throwing together that follows the Wallace family and the dad of the family's band that are called the Thieves of Thunder. And, the profit for it, because I have to consider the profit, and, a lot of people are going to be talking about, just do it for the art, live off the fat of the land. That doesn't make any money, and then before you know it, you can't make it anymore because it's not financially possible. But Smoking Robots, the plan it's slowly evolved, because there were sort of two main prongs to it as a series, which was the family. You've got the family appeal. You can write strips about the Wallace family and their functionality as a family. But then there's also the band. And the third one, which I also mentioned in the previous video, is that the series is set in Hastings. And that is, promotion-wise, that's quite solid, because you'd be surprised how quickly things set in your own town can give a signal boost to it. And plus, as I said, I do like, there are a lot of things I like about my hometown. As growing up in Hastings St Leonard's, it's only natural to not think much of your town from time to time. That's a very common pitfall that could happen to anybody. You grow up where you grew up, so it can become mundane. I think one of the things that's helped me with living in St Leonard's and being near Hastings is seeing friends I know who are new experiencing St Leonard's and Hastings. That's when you start to see it from a better angle, I feel. Because, a lot of people my age, the second you say, what do you like about Hastings? They will immediately trash it. And like I said, I'd easily be one of those people until, there was like a bunch of friends I had back when I was in university there's a bunch of friends I had from Malta who came to visit in Hastings, and it just so happened when they came down, it was incredibly good weather, and it's a seaside town, really really sunny, nice weather. You know, it's not sort of overpopulated. Well, it wasn't that overpopulated at the time, and so they had they thought it was just like the nicest place I've ever seen. And when you see it sort of through the eyes of somebody else that wasn't, born and raised here, and they have a time like that, you start to appreciate the other side of the coin, And I think it's little memories like that have made me want to incorporate Hastings and St Leonard's as part of Smoke and Robots as a series. But the thing that I sort of cracked today was, because the whole time I've designed these comic strips, I'm trying to look. It's the business word, trying to look at the big picture, because you can throw out a funny page, but a funny page by itself, it's not really going to do much. And so I thought to myself, what could be the end product? Because if we compare this to Skeleton Party, for example, Skeleton Party's plan is to have episodes, large episodes. And so the idea is that a full episode of Skeleton Party will be anywhere between half an hour to an hour, but that main episode will actually be broken apart several times. And I'll explain why when we get to that. But in the same vein, I had to think about Smoke and Robots and think like, what is the final product of Smoke and Robots? Because a funny page is, it's good, but it's not a grand scheme. It's not, I mean, from back when I was doing DeviantArt and the Libisatory and stuff, I used to produce funny pages all the time. It's not the main event. It's a great piece, but it's not the main event. And so it just sort of struck me this morning as like Undertaker sitting up after a finishing move, or Mariah Carey sitting up when October dawns. I considered the idea of Smoke and Robots being produced in books. So the funny pages, and I got this concept because the funny pages have evolved because some of their scripts are a bit too fat for a page. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, this might be 3-4 pages, because you guys know me. I waffle on and on and on, and it's the same in my writing. But as well, it makes sense because the comedy in Smoke and Robots is very organic. It's inspired by, shows like Only Fools and Horses, where the humour it's less about punchlines and more about amusing characters. It's sort of like I think Frasier is another one where obviously there are some punchlines and stuff like that, but the general warmth of it is created from just characters being themselves, and they happen to be amusing and have amusing mannerisms. I do apologise. I have just realised so long into the video that my fan has been on the entire time. I usually turn it off for these videos. I have no idea how well you're picking that up in terms of sound. Hopefully that's a little bit better. What the hell was I saying? You stupid fan, you've ruined me. Yes, natural characters. I like to call it natural humour or something, or organic humour. It makes it a pleasure to write as well. Like if I just sit down to write a script for Smoke and Robots and say I've got like the dad and the mum and I know what the conversation's going to be about, it's the easiest thing in the world to write, because you just sit down and you just hear the characters and just type what they're saying. as opposed to sitting there and trying to think of what the most crushing punchline is going to be. But since I came up with the concept of the book, I was able to sort of break it into 3 parts. I'm sort of like, okay, well, you pick the larger funny pages, which aren't the funny pages. They're going to be, small comics, as it were. Pick 3 of them, have it from the beginning and middle and the end. You pick one that's family based, so that satisfies the Wallace family. Pick one that's band based, so that then satisfies touching base with the band. And pick a 3rd one that is town based, so that you touch base with Hastings of St Leonard's. And the way the book's going to be structured is that it'll have each of those, and then maybe like a small funny page with each of them, and as well there's going to be something called a guest page, because the series is so based around music and heavy metal and stuff like that, and classic rock bands, some of which didn't make it, some of which did. I also want a guest funny page to accompany each part, and that it's love meeting promotion again, because I mean, for example, there's a funny page where they meet Bruce Dickinson, and they just see him in the bar, and they well, I shan't say what happens, it will be there eventually, but he's Bruce Dickinson. And in terms of promotion, you then, once that's produced, the funny page goes out, you tag it or whatever, Bruce Dickinson, and it's that promotional prospect. So while Hastings is bringing clicks in and stuff like that, then Bruce Dickinson can bring some clicks in. But as well, I want minor and major guest roles, and that to me, like, there's 2 types of fandom, and I think both are always worth hitting. That you've got your mainstream fandom, but then you've got cult fandom. Cult fandom is what I call, like you get. I talk about these bands from the 80s that never made it, but made solid music, because so much of success, as we just discussed, it's not always about the quality of what you produced. It's about how you were marketed, And sometimes things just aren't marketed that well. I mean, like, if you compare Iron Maiden to Deep Purple, for example, you look at the marketing of Iron Maiden's albums. Now, don't get me wrong, they're Iron Maiden. They produce phenomenal content, but the marketing for their albums is also so good. Like the new Senjutsu album. It's so branded. Like that's the word that I always like to use for well marketed albums. It's so branded. It's like you think back to the book. Was it Book of Souls? Which was their previous one. That was also really well, it's well branded, well marketed. Because once you call something the Book of Souls, the album is called the Book of Souls. That means your special edition could probably actually be a book. And then they released like a live thing that was like Book of Souls, the next chapter. There's so much you can do with it. It was so well produced and well advertised. But then you look at like Deep Purple. Like, no offense to them, like they're still making great content, but like their albums, well, I can't tell you their album titles. I remember like there was like a song they did called Vincent Price, about Vincent Price, and it's a great song. It's an absolute belter. But like the album was called So What? No, or Now What, or something like that. It just like, it was just a sort of like fuck it sort of title, and a lot of their album titles are like that, and like that's when I start to sort of like there are so many things to go wrong with good content. There's so many like like to think of like the amount of musicians and bands and stuff like that that have performed and written everything perfectly, but somewhere on the marketing front someone has dropped the ball and it just can't be done anymore. You know, it just drops off, people don't hear it, and stuff like that. And that's why when it comes to what I call them outreaches, well, that's what I've called them in the notes, when I, you know, make a funny page that's got Bruce Dickinson in it, because that then might pull in some Bruce Dickinson fans. But the I think cult fandom is just as important to reach out to, because cult fandom is for starters, it's more loyal. You know, it's more it's you know, you could, like, well, if we take it to its absolute rawest form, like look at pop fans versus cult fans. Pop fans, you'll be their favourite until the following Wednesday. You know, they'll pay through the nose, but only until the following Wednesday. And cult fans, they won't pay as much, but they will pay forever. You know, it's and that's why I think like you should always sort of touch base with both, and also with in this thing I also want to throw some puzzles in, just because I like making puzzles. And I figured it'd be something good to do on the toilet. You know, if you buy a Smoking Robots book, you can laugh until you shit yourself while sitting on the toilet. Don't I'll put a health warning with it so you don't sit in the wrong chair. But so the finished product will be the book, and the distribution will be after the book, because you know, I've often sort of wondered this. It's a mistake I've done in the past when I've made content for Labisatory, where I've been promoting stuff that hasn't happened yet. And while that's fine in small doses, like teasers, you know, you can't put too much out, because then you're putting out too much content for something that can't actually be purchased yet. You know, you want to put the main thing out and then start putting out, start breaking it up. But like in this case, Smoking Robots, I think all the content is distributable in some way outside of buying the actual thing. I'm still trying to work out other avenues of earnings from it. I think you can get some ad revenue. I'm not a big fan of ad revenue, if I'm being completely honest, because I think ad revenue is a very fickle and collapsible thing. You've got all these YouTubers complaining about the adpocalypse and stuff like that, and they're losing money that they didn't really deserve to begin with. You know, I realise that's a really harsh thing to say, but I'm sort of like, I have more respect for sponsorship and merchandising than I will ever have for ad revenue. You know, you've got like YouTube bringing in, they're starting to clamp down on ad block and stuff like that, and it makes me think so little of them, because I'm sort of like, well, the second I take my ad block off, I get the exact same gambling adverts over and over and over again. And when it's not gambling adverts, it is literally pseudoscience that could potentially kill someone. So, you know, I'm literally like, if when Iron Maiden are advertising Senjutsu absolutely everywhere, when a Senjutsu advert turns up before my YouTube video, maybe then I'll take ad block off. But until then, if you're just trying to make me bow down to your witchcraft, I'm going to keep ad block. You know, and that's one of my many reasons as to why I don't like AdSense and making money from ads. So Smoking Robots, it's once a book is assembled, you can break it apart for promotion and distribution. You can, especially, I mean, you got the outreach pages. You can post them on forums. You can do things like that with it. I think Facebook is probably going to be one of the main upload places. I am worried about Facebook because, how do I put this? The humour in Smoking Robots is particularly stiff, and I think it's fine if you understand it, but it can be very offensive if you don't. And I gave the example before. There's one chap called Jack. His best friend is a black lady, and every single comic strip he finds a way of mentioning her race in some way. But Jack is one of those characters that if you see him in enough pages, you begin to understand that he's not the horrible person you might mistake him for. He's just got a brain like a cement mixer. But that's the sort of thing that the way comedy has gone these days is that they don't really allow for characters that you have to take some time to understand. They try and make them as consumable as possible. And I might be due to people's quickness to click off something. I don't know. But either way, I say Facebook is going to be the main one as to where this gets promoted. That would make sense because of the connections to the town. But I do refuse to censor anything. It's my phrase. Censorship is the highest form of lying. I'm not going to do that. But that might just be me shooting myself in the foot. So we'll have to see how it goes. See, Skeleton Party, moving on to the Skeleton Party. Skeleton Party has a broader opportunity for revenue, but it's aptly fitting. It's going to be harder work. Is this just me, or has the room gotten darker? I think the sun went away. So, yeah, Skeleton Party, you can do ad revenue on it, I guess, because it's a video. But the good thing about Skeleton Party is that it's been structured in such a way. It's similar to the Smoking Robots book. A full episode of Skeleton Party is going to be structured in a similar way, in the sense that it will have the 3-part system. In this case, it will be 3 pieces of narration. So that shapes part 1, 2, and 3. And between each part you have like intermissions, just like the Smoking Robots books had intermissions in terms of outreach, funny pages, as well as puzzle pieces. Skeleton Party is going to have shorts, and maybe there'll be like an additional piece. I've sort of I've split them out into 3 categories: shorts, talks, and tubes. And the reason I've done that is because I think TikTok allows for a different size of video than YouTube or Facebook Reels. I think Facebook Reels and Instagram, I think they allow for like it's 120 minutes, the seconds, I think, something like that. Whilst TikTok, I think they allow 9 now. When it used to just be 2 minutes something. I think the 9 is stupid, quite frankly. I think I don't know what it is. I just think it's daft, or it's just irrelevant to me. Because I sort of literally like, well, it's either 2.5 minutes or you're here for a while. Like the 9 is just irritating. As is 10. You remember when YouTube were doing that thing where video had to be 10 minutes, and a number of times you'd catch people just like dragging the video so that it went to 10 minutes, hit the 10-minute mark. I think they still do that. I forget why it is now. But yeah, I would be still valuing the talks at the 2-odd minute mark. So the idea is that Skeleton Party, you've got the you've got the main pieces of reading of the episode, but there'll also be shorts cut from it, because the shorts, if you want to make a video successful, unfortunately, the video is not the main event anymore. It used to be, and I dare say it is, but you draw people to it using shorts, and it's difficult, but on one hand you can kind of understand. It's in the sense that people are there is so much content to watch, and so shorts essentially become adverts, and you've got to take pieces from your main episode that will be essentially be enticing enough to make someone go, oh, I might watch that full thing. But I mean, and the thing is that is one of those things where you can see that divide of mainstream and cult fandom more vividly in that instance, because once some people might just watch the short and think that's enough. But then the people that watch the short, like the short, come through to the main video. If they enjoyed that main video, the chances are they'll probably watch the next one too. So the Skeleton Party, it's interesting because I wrote the two main pieces of narration, because the Skeleton Party has like a whole lore to it. I thought, well, it makes sense that the first episode will just no matter if it's boring or anything like that, it needs to hit the lore, so that there's always a page one for the Skeleton Party story. I wrote it in two parts, and I thought to myself, well, if there's three parts, I can put part one as the first half of this heavy story, and I put the second half as part three, and that allows me to put something a bit sillier in between the two for part two, and so that will a little bit of a palate cleanser, sort of make sure that a whole funeral doesn't break out in the Skeleton Party, no pun intended. But Skeleton Party also uses a lot of music, which is made in FL Studio, and that will probably be on sale at Bandcamp as well. I've toyed with the idea of making it royalty free. I don't know how you do that, but just sort of like if you can buy it, you can use it for whatever you want. But that again, that's a sort of a thing of promotion. And at some point, there's going to be a Patreon, and I actually think that might be very soon, to be honest, because because it literally will help in the creation of these two projects. It'll help me create them faster, but there's so much to work out there. For starters, what am I going to call it? Because essentially, it's a Patreon for two projects. That is, unless Skeleton Party swallows Smoking Robots, which I've considered doing, because Skeleton Party is set in the Dark Star universe. I think it could be fair to say that Smoking Robots takes place in our universe, which and makes some kind of bridge between them. And like Smoking Robots already has some supernatural elements to it. Well, there's two in particular. There's a very, very fat dog who is supposed to be a retired guardian of hell. More on this later. And another one who is a lady that says that she's come from a lesbian planet, and that has no men on it at all. And the whole gig of this lady is that everybody thinks she's mad, but she actually has come from a planet. She was created for another character who was another gay lady but sounds weird. I felt like she was too normal. I felt like I don't like it when you create a character that lives maybe a different lifestyle to other characters, and you find that there's no flaw or eccentricity with that character, because it literally makes them look like their thing is that alternate lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, here's another example. When you get like a show, and for the sake of diversity, they cast a black character, but it's like a cast of, you know, flawed human beings like you get in every show to make any good character. But like they make the mistake of making a black person have no flaws at all. And so what happens when you do that? By default, their flaw becomes their race, which is awful, you know. And so it's sort of like, and this is how I felt about this character that I devised. Actually, this character is also black. Her name is Pat. She runs the bar in Smoking Robots. The bar is fictitious. There is allusions to the Carlisle, which is a biker bar in Hastings. But the actual bar that is in Smoking Robots is called the Sledgehammer, which was named after Sledgehammer Rock, which is a song by Raven. Look it up, by the way, it's good. But the lady that runs the bar is a black lady, a gay black lady, who Jack has a field day about. I talked about Jack's best friend who was black. This is who it is. And the thing is, I looked at this character, and I got attached writing it because she's a more level-headed character, a little bit like the father of the family, because you always need someone a little bit level-headed to help run a story. But I looked at her and I was sort of like, there's nothing wrong with her. I was like, you've got to have something wrong with her. You know, it's how we make compelling characters. And I've said this many, many times before. It's one of the most common flaws in any kind of women in comedy, and that is writing them without flaws. I think this is a problem that a lot of male writers have, but we've seen this problem in female writers as well, where they. I get it. We don't want to hurt women. I get it, but the problem is that in doing that, you depict women who are unrelatable. You know, like people relate to Homer Simpson because he's a fucking idiot. And it's because we are all good people, but we're also fucking idiots. You know, like the amount of stupid things we do on a daily basis, and characters like Homer Simpson give viewers comfort because it's recognising on such a grand scale that we are foolish. You know, and one of the common issues you find with a lot of women when they're being written for in comedy is that their jokes are never or very rarely based around themselves, and usually at someone else's expense. And it does no one any favours, because it makes men feel like shite, but it also makes women feel like shite because they can't relate to these characters at all. And you get the in the end you get women that feel compelled to relate to the foolish male characters because they just can't see their equivalent in the women on screen. So that was sort of going around in my head as I was tinkering with Pat, and so I decided to. The only thing I could think of, and I think I backed myself into a bit of a corner when I was developing her, because she, as the bartender, she is that backbone character. So when Morris, who's the dad of the Wallace family, when he's not around and it's a bar scene, you still need a driver for the scene, and Pat seemed to fill that role perfectly. But again, she doesn't have any flaws. Morris has flaws, but the only thing I could think of was was to give her a mad girlfriend, because you know when you depict a character's partner, it says a lot about it says a lot about the character dating them. This is one of the reasons why. We see it all the time when you see like a unlikely romance, and this is something I learned during the realms of erotica. When you see like people depicting the completely unlikely thing happening, like you take the most like crass example you can think of in terms of erotica. Say the nerdy boy suddenly dates 5 supermodels. One of the things I learned in terms of balancing the equities, and this is a phrase you hear me use a lot, balancing the equities. I would attempt that story, but I wouldn't attempt it as just like, he falls out of bed one day and all these, I don't know, 5, 6 women just go, my God, he's hot. Like, there's the equities need to be balanced. You've got to make him valuable enough to warrant that. You can't just sort of force it to happen, and that's going to be something very otherworldly. That's going to be something very unrealistic, because just generally as human beings, you don't deserve that. So it's going to have to be fantastical. But it's with the Pat storyline. I figured that if she had a mad girlfriend, it says a lot about her. But the joke sort of deepened a bit. That I was depicting Veronica is the name of the partner, and she's one of my favourite characters to write for, because she is like incredibly well spoken and incredibly inappropriately spoken, and you're writing this character that is so verbose about everything she says in front of very normal characters who are very based in reality. It kind of I think there's a little bit inspired by going back to Frasier, actually, which I apologise if I mentioned it several times. I am watching through Frasier at the moment, including the new one. But there's a character in the original run of Frasier called BB Glazer, who is such a she isn't as naturally written as a lot of the other characters, and she stands out for that. She's a hilarious character. Because she's so cartoony, but again, it's the reactions you get out of the characters around her, because they're so grounded in reality. If she's not funny enough by herself, then the humor is going to also drive from characters around her reacting to her. But that was sort of one of the many components that went into developing this Veronica character. So I felt like that was sort of do you know, I forgot how I got onto this now. why I'm explaining Pat's alien girlfriend to you. Maybe I'll get back there eventually. I was talking about balancing the equities. I always talk about balancing the equities. No, brain's gone off a cliff. But okay, so go back to the skeleton party. Maybe it'll come back to me. You never know. So Skeleton Party has that divided into 3 pieces, like I told you guys, and we've got that comedy piece in the middle. That is Gimbals McBoney, the silly skeleton with the crazy dance moves. I'm really looking forward to reading that one. But there's a music element to all of it. I think I mentioned it with FL Studio. That I'm really looking forward to. What I was thinking of doing is making the episodes, exporting them, and actually putting them into FL Studio and taking existing tracks I've got and mixing them alongside the actual footage of me talking. And I'm still working out the exact presentation style, because I have to recognise that I'm not terribly big budget man. You know, I have to work out what to do. I have to sort of find a way around things. It's like at the moment, Libisatory, I'm planning a animated series, and I want to do it in a very using an advanced rendering engine, which I don't normally use because of the computer's limitations. But I worked out the other day how to make it work for me by doing, like, basically making dot gifs and working out a way to animate using dot gifs. And I think I'm going to be employing similar kind of methods for the Skeleton Party's animation. It seems like the best way to do it, because I want myself on camera, and we're going to have in the lovely room tarted up. Well, if I can be bothered to tart it up, I might just put a skull here and there, which is kind of what I've already done when you think about it. But yes. I don't know what's wrong. I think that there's just so much to get my head around at the moment. And do you know what? Earlier this week, I moaned about Word. No, what was it called? Notepad on Windows being updated because it's no longer super simple. What's it called? Text pad? Notepad? Notepad. They updated it, and now it's got like a whole tab system, and I've fallen in love with it. I took like proper like cynical jabs there. I was like, oh, fucked up Notepad, fuck, and here I am now, and I've got like a tab for all of my projects, and every day I open it, and I take a look at what I'm in the midst of organising, what I feel needs to be moved around or added to or sorted out, and it's actually really good. So that's like at the moment I've got that planned. I've got I mentioned the outreaching for Smoking Robots. Skeleton Party is also going to have outreaches, and unlike Smoking Robots, which are basically going to go for two fan fictions of pop culture characters. When I say fan fictions, I mean just creations involving someone from pop culture. Again, the example of the funny page with Bruce Dickinson in it. But Smoking Robots intends to, there's always going to be two from, I guess you say, from the top of the deck, and two from bands that might not have made it or might not be as well known. For example, I had an idea for Crystal Ball appearing in a funny page. Crystal Ball are one of my favourite bands. In the UK, in the US, they're really not that well known. I believe they're Swedish. So, it's not, you could say that in their country it's from the top of the deck, but from any other country, they're not as well known. So I count them as a lower thing. And Skeleton Party, the outreaches are a little bit different because they're more art based. So there'll be two examples of pop culture characters, and I thought it'd be really nice for them to be balanced out with two examples of independent characters. And when I say independent characters, I mean, I've got friends on DeviantArt that, don't all produce not safe for work content, or if they do, there's no harm cleaning that up a bit for a Skeleton Party episode, and go like that, and maybe just like there's the funny pages in Smoke and Robots. There'll be little pieces alongside the main episode readings. So there's so much planning involved, but it's you know what, this is when I made the video the other day, this is the thing that made me want to talk about it the most, which is that I feel like it's properly reconnecting me with a creative side of my brain that I haven't engaged in a really long time, and it's just gonna feel really good to do it. Do you know what, it depends how long you've been subscribed to my videos. A lot of you guys know that I've been here since like 26, was it like 2006? I think I've been on here on YouTube for this channel is old, but the thing that sort of struck me as I was planning all of this is that remembering my oldest YouTube videos, because it wasn't always about comedy, and I seem to have fallen into that because, well, because if you know me in real life, you know I like to make jokes. You know, I like to make people laugh, and like that is a given in terms of what I do to make people laugh and or to be engaged in stuff like that. What I like to create, and what I like to create always just has humour about it. But I love surrealism, and I love things that don't always make a lot of sense, or at the very least, it's on it's on the consumer to make their own sense of it. And it's one of the things that I've found that I'm getting back in touch with as I plan the Skeleton Party, because like if we look at the we've got the contract is the first piece, the first main piece that gets read. It's the main event of part one, if you will, and that's particularly serious, and it's got a very low tone to it. The track that is literally called The Contract that plays underneath it is a very sad and sort of somber tone, and I'm sort of like, well, this isn't comedy, but then you've got like you've got part two where there's Gimbals, McBoney, the silly skeleton with the crazy dance moves. That's obviously more comedy based. I feel like it's reopening that vault in my head where things don't have to be funny. They can be what they're supposed to be. They can move in whatever way they want to. And it's one of the things that's spurring me on at the moment. So before I enter another subject and forget where I'm talking again, I am going to love you and leave you, and I don't know what I'm doing today. I think it's something to do with the Abyss story. I'll need to check. I need to check my schedule. But yes, I hope if the last video didn't put you to sleep, this one will. But I hope you've enjoyed the inner machinations of my mind. I will talk to you guys very, very soon. Take care. That was a daily dose of internet. I'll talk to you guys very, very soon.